We are counting down the 10 most dramatic moments when aircraft carriers faced their deadliest enemy, the sea itself. From modern warships wrestling with towering swells to historic disasters that folded entire flight decks, each entry reveals how even the mightiest vessels can be pushed to the brink by storms, rogue waves, and typhoons. Which carrier survived the worst, and which nearly did not make it back? Let us begin with number 10. Number 10. HMS Queen Elizabeth, the Royal Navy's 65,000-ton flagship, faced its proving ground during sea trials in the Bay of Biscay. Waves topping 30 feet hammered the hull, sending green water crashing over the bow and forcing the ship into a relentless cycle of pitching and rolling. Crew members worked around the clock to secure helicopters, aircraft, and loose equipment as icy spray engulfed the forward decks. Despite the storm's intensity, the carrier maintained stability and operational readiness throughout the ordeal. The successful passage through one of the Atlantic's roughest stretches confirmed the resilience of Britain's newest carrier design. 9. INS Vikramaditya, Arctic Delivery Storm, 2013. Arctic Trial. INS Vikramaditya faced an intense storm during her delivery voyage across the Barents Sea in late 2013. The carrier was newly refitted and had just left Russian shipyards when freezing winds and heavy swells closed in. Ice built up rapidly as sea spray froze on contact, coating decks, railings, and exposed equipment, and adding dangerous weight high above the waterline. Crew and specialists worked together. The Indian crew, still learning the ship's systems and routines, operated alongside Russian technicians to keep vital machinery running and to prevent ice from building up in critical areas. Despite the harsh conditions and the unfamiliar environment, Vikramaditya completed her passage without major incident, proving her readiness for service in some of the world's most unforgiving waters. In 2018, USS Harry S. Truman pushed north of the Arctic Circle into waters where few American carriers had operated since the Cold War. As the ship pressed deeper, rough seas and freezing temperatures turned the flight deck into a hazardous sheet of ice, with icing building up on railings and equipment. Icing and cold made routine tasks dangerous for sailors, and every hour raised the risk of accidents as rolling seas threatened both crew and aircraft. Conditions became so severe that flight operations were suspended, grounding the carrier's air wing until the weather improved, and proving that nature can neutralize even the most advanced warships without firing a shot. In July 2022, routine flight operations on USS Harry S. Truman turned chaotic when a sudden Mediterranean squall struck the carrier. Within minutes, violent gusts battered the flight deck, rocking aircraft that had been secured under standard tie-downs. One FA-18 Super Hornet, parked and lashed down, broke free and was blown overboard into deep water, a multi-million-dollar loss. The crew immediately launched an assessment and began a complex deep-sea recovery effort, calling in salvage teams and remotely operated vehicles to search the seafloor and locate the jet. The incident triggered a review of tie-down protocols and operating procedures, highlighting how fast-moving weather can overpower even strict safety measures. The event underscored a crucial lesson, and there was no loss of life. Number 6. USS Kitty Hawk, Typhoon Man-yi, 2008. Typhoon Man-yi battered USS Kitty Hawk off the coast of Japan. A single massive wave struck the carrier's deck-edge elevator, forcing seawater down into the ship's interior. Flooding spread quickly through compartments below the flight deck, threatening electrical systems and machinery vital for ship operations. The advancing water put critical systems at immediate risk. Damage control teams rushed to contain the water, sealing hatches and deploying pumps under intense pressure. Their rapid, coordinated work prevented the flooding from disabling major systems. The elevator's exposed design proved a critical weak point, showing how one breach can put an entire carrier at risk. The incident underscored the need for engineering resilience and fast, decisive action to save the ship. USS Carl Vinson was operating in the Pacific in 1986 when the routine of deck work was shattered by a sudden rogue wave. Without warning, a wall of water surged over the deck-edge elevator, sweeping 7 sailors into the ocean. The crew sprang into action, launching life rings and deploying rescue boats in heavy seas. 6 sailors were pulled from the water after a frantic search, but one never returned. The tragedy forced a hard look at deck safety protocols and reminded everyone on board that even outside of storms, the ocean's power can turn ordinary duty into a life-and-death struggle. USS Dwight D. Eisenhower was operating off Cape Hatteras, a stretch of water sailors call the graveyard of the Atlantic for its unpredictable and often violent seas. In 1989, a rogue wave struck the carrier with no warning, rising high enough to crash over the flight deck and starboard side. The force of the wave swept 3 sailors and several missiles into the ocean. 2 of the sailors were recovered after a rapid search and rescue effort, but 1 was lost to the sea. The loss of both crew and ordnance so close to the U.S. coast revealed just how quickly a routine day can turn deadly, even in home waters, and how weapons security remains a constant challenge when the ocean defies prediction. Typhoon Viper hammered USS Bennington off Okinawa in December 1945, driving the carrier's bow into wave after wave of solid water. Each impact forced the forward flight deck lower until the steel structure began to crumple under relentless pressure. The deck did not just bend, it folded and collapsed, destroying catapults and tearing away vital supports. With the bow section battered and nearly unmanageable, the crew faced a stark choice. Steering forward risked further destruction or even loss of the ship. Instead, the commanding officers ordered the carrier to steam in reverse, keeping the shattered bow pointed away from the worst of the storm. This desperate maneuver required precise helm control and constant vigilance, as the ship's engines and rudder worked against the sea's fury. Bennington survived, but the damage stood as a dramatic warning of how even the mightiest warships could be pushed to the brink by the raw force of the Pacific. USS Hornet faced Typhoon Viper off Okinawa in December 1945, enduring wave impacts that drove her bow deep underwater. The relentless pressure forced the forward flight deck to buckle and peel back, exposing the ship's armored surface and revealing how vulnerable even protected areas could be. With the front section mangled and twisted, all flight operations came to an abrupt halt, and crew members worked for hours to shore up damaged supports and assess how far structural integrity had been compromised. The armored deck, designed to withstand bombs and kamikaze strikes, proved no match for the Typhoon's waves, and Hornet's ordeal became a stark lesson in the limits of engineering as the ship limped away battered but afloat. December 18, 1944. Typhoon Cobra catches the United States Third Fleet in the Philippine Sea, its true location misjudged by hundreds of miles. USS Langley, a light carrier among dozens of warships, is battered by winds nearing 100 knots and waves so large they erase the horizon. Langley rolls up to 70 degrees, just shy of capsizing. Crew members crawl across the deck, fighting to keep their grip as aircraft break free and crash into each other or vanish overboard. Fires break out. Visibility drops to almost nothing. In the chaos, the crew resorts to counter-flooding, deliberately filling compartments on one side with seawater to bring the ship back upright. The tactic works, but barely. Across the fleet, 3 destroyers, Spence, Hull, and Monahan, roll over and sink, taking nearly 800 sailors with them. Langley survives, but the scale of disaster forces the Navy to confront its forecasting failures. Official inquiries drive a complete overhaul of storm tracking and avoidance doctrine, laying the groundwork for modern carrier operations. The lessons from Cobra echo through every storm that follows, a reminder that even the largest warships can be humbled by the sea. Across all 10 storms, one truth stands out. Even the world's largest warships remain at the mercy of nature. Technology and training help, but the ocean's power still tests every limit. In the end, survival depends on human skill and respect for forces we can't control.